Welcome back to the channel, Leon Angus. And in today's video, we're going to be doing an interview with a very special guest that I've recently come across this YouTube video, Shane Dutka. All right, so if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And I appreciate you having me on. Yeah, I guess if I were to introduce myself, I would start by saying a former accountant turned, I guess, digital marketer slash SEO blogger. I mean, I've been building blogs and affiliate sites for at least 5 years now. I got my start as a sort of accountant. I didn't really want to just live that linear lifestyle, and I sort of on the side I was like, hey, let me try to escape this not so fun life, crunching numbers. And I started a bow tie company, out of desperation, and basically had no money left after buying bow ties. I basically got really good at SEO to sell the bow ties, and then that kind of started this whole path of starting sites, and yeah, it's been quite a journey.
Amazing. And just right off the bat, because of the amazing kind of success story that you have behind you, how much did you actually sell? It wasn't that site, but it was the pest control site. You've had quite a few successes. How much was it that you actually sold that site for?
Pest control. So yeah, from the bow tie site, I ended up pivoting away from bow ties, although I still ran it just because bow ties is very narrow from an SEO perspective. There's just not that many people searching for bow tie information. So I was like, I'm not gonna be able to buy my island with a bow tie site. So
Yeah.
I need to get away from bow ties. Let me pivot. So I ended up pivoting to pest control just because I really knew that people hate bugs, and there's a lot of questions that people ask on the internet about how to kill them, and there's a lot of products to kill them. So that's kind of where I netted out. And then there was also a lead gen component, which is really cool. So that was kind of what my thought process was. And it took me about 2 years, and I ended up selling that site for 1.2 million on FE International, one of the bigger brokers that process transactions like that.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what was your whole reason for getting into online marketing? Because obviously coming from an accountant background, what was it that actually spurred you to even look at this as an opportunity?
I guess because I saw people making money on the internet, man. There's a lot of ways to make money on the internet, but then at the same time, because there's a lot of ways, there's a lot of noise on the internet. What's the best way? What way actually works? Maybe the way that works 3 years ago doesn't work anymore now. So I guess when I was an accountant, I was like, man, I'm always trading dollars for hours. I'm not really, I'm limited by the amount of time I can put into my job and my salary, whatever. So and my dad, more context, my dad was an entrepreneur himself. He was more in the blue collar world though. He started an electrical contracting business.
Yeah.
And I guess I had it in my head that I felt like there was a calling to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't know what or how.
Yep.
And digital marketing felt like the right way to be able to dabble in the entrepreneur world and then also continue working my job, just because I'm not a big risk taker. So I can't just quit my job and just try things, as an accountant. So I think really it was just out of frustration of the linear path that is the normal 9 to 5 just didn't appeal to me. So I was like, how can I do this? And that, seeing people make money on the internet, Shark Tank stories of digital marketing successes and overnight, using the internet to make money, just felt really compelling and a way to, do both.
Yeah.
Well, not making the full jump, internet marketing tends to be very tactical, and right. There's certain things, specific steps you need to do to achieve a result.
Yep.
And I would say that I followed, so again, going back to bow ties, that was where I started. I didn't really know how to get people to my site, right? I was just struggling with that. And I knew blogging could work, but it wasn't really until I went to a conference about men's fashion and I talked to other people in my niche, and it was like, hey, how are you getting traffic? And they basically said oh, my blog is generating me 5,000 visitors a month. I'm like, how the hell did you do that? And then I just kind of picked their brain, and I was like, that created more threads of curiosity that I would go down and be like, oh, how to build links and how to rank higher with certain pages. And then that just, I would say not books, just lots of in networking and just Googling answers and questions, and then, YouTube videos in the beginning, but then really finding some people that were really doing it and having success doing it. Those people I tended to gravitate towards. And one specific, his name is Brock McGough. He runs The Modest Man, and he was somebody I came across early in my SEO and digital marketing career.
Yeah.
He, in a similar path, he used to work in a 9 to 5 life, and he went and started this, short man's blog. You can't see on camera, I'm not that tall. I'm 5'6". So I followed him, and And he taught me some nuts and bolts and just, again, like threads of curiosity that ultimately, you know, I would just dig in and learn, you know?
Yeah. Okay. That's amazing. And I noticed that you mentioned links. This is like one of the uncertainties for a lot of beginners, where we do have quite a lot of beginners that watch this channel. And I just wanted to touch base on that. Like, so you're an advocate of building links. Do you believe, like, is your strategy warranting of building links? Like, are you going for competitive terms of where you're required to do so? And do you believe all webmasters need to build links?
Couple questions in there. I'll try to unpack it.
Yeah, just
yes, there are, you need to build, I mean, yes, can you build a site without links? Probably. And every time somebody asks me, Shane, can I build a site without links? I'm like, yes. First of all, you got to like set your expectations way lower with what is possible in terms of, you know, revenue generating potential. Yeah. Timeline goes way out. Like you're going to have to like be like a 3-year, maybe even 3.5, 4-year timeline. And then you're going to, it's going to be a massive slog. And unless you are somebody who can stick at something for 3 to 4 years and get meh results, then that's going to be the path for no link building. So I am very much an advocate of link building. As far as like how I do it, so Pest Strategies was the site I originally started, which was a pest control site. And I started that, and basically I was like, how can I add value to people that are searching pest control terms? And then how can I just promote that to other websites who are talking about those terms? That was pretty much my come from, right? Like, and I did it all myself. And that was basically the best link building strategy you can do. It sounds so simple, but it's like literally like, can I create something that's actually valuable to people? Like that they will like use and like actually get that. Because most people building links, they build this like crappy content about vague information that exists in like 95 other places. And you try to promote it and like, why is nobody giving me links? Well, the content's terrible. And I mean, and I'm sure your outreach script is terrible too. So like all of that together creates a lot of failure, which then, you know, demotivates people and ultimately you get no results. So yeah, definitely my come from was like create highly actionable content. And I'll give you a specific, right? Like, so for Pest Strategies, I created a piece of content on diatomaceous earth, which is a powder that people use to kill bugs or bed bugs specifically, or bugs, really any bugs. Basically what it would do is dry out their exoskeleton, whatever. And I created a piece of content that basically said that, and most people right now were like really gung-ho about this content. But I came at it from a different angle. I was like, it's actually crap and nobody should buy it. So I took this like very controversial angle to it. And that resonated with webmasters because they were like, oh yeah, that's totally true. And I gave all these like sound arguments why, examples, specific scenarios, and that worked. People were like, oh yeah, that's different. That resonated. And then boom, I got a link, you know? So yeah, that strategy is what I did for Pest Strategies. I did something very similar for my jewelry site, Learning Jewelry, which is one of my current public case studies, do a lot of that. Nowadays, I outsource all of it, right? I've found link building vendors and agencies that I trust to do basically what I would do for myself as a service. And that's kind of where I am today.
Okay, brilliant, brilliant. I always dig into where you may have potentially got this information from. So throughout your journey, I'd imagine that you've obviously watched quite a few people, learn from many different website creators. But who is it currently that you kind of learn from, and who would you say is responsible for quite a lot of your learning curve?
So yeah, Mark and Gail are like my, you know, I love them with the Authority Hacker guys. They're really great, very authentic. You know, they publish no BS content. Like, hey, this is what's working in internet marketing with SEO. Very similar to how I approach teaching my students and my clients. Brock McGough, I mentioned him earlier. I met him at a conference. You know, we sat and had bourbon together and talked SEO. You know, like you got to just kind of rub elbows with other people doing this stuff. And I mean, entrepreneurship in general is a lonely game. So you need to be in groups and other people who are doing what you're doing and like network. Cause like at the end of the day, like, you know, it's a human condition to like want to give up when things get hard. Cause like, it's just hard, you know, like, so if you don't have a cohort or other people you're talking to, it gets really hard to stay motivated. So Brock and a number of other people that I've kind of networked with have helped, you know, being able to celebrate those small victories. So again, Authority Hacker, I follow a bunch of people as far as like the Ahrefs blog. It's really great. They're a tool, you know, for SEO. I'm trying to think. Brian Dean's really great.
I'm an advocate of Ahrefs as well, because I use that as my actual SEO tool and read their blog like all the time. There's so much information there that a lot of people do not know. Like, you know, so most people go and watch YouTube videos, but the golden nuggets are actually a lot of the time in the blog articles as well.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I love their stuff. They're very actionable. Of course, they're promoting their tool and their content, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
But I think their tool is great. I mean, I have no issue with that. I was going to say, Brian Dean, you know, he's like obviously fairly big in the SEO
Yeah,
space.
backlinko, yeah.
I would say like he is like, people kind of give him like, you know, they kind of think he's a little bit rah-rah. I think he publishes great content. Like he does probably target a broader audience with some of his stuff. But I think there's a lot of golden nuggets to take away. And then like I was saying earlier, like create curiosity, threads of curiosity where he like introduces a topic to you, like say like webmaster tools, right? Like if you're brand new to the SEO game, he gives you like an overview of webmaster tools. And then maybe you're like, oh, you know, like crawl budget, like what the hell is that? Like he mentioned it one time, and then that creates this thread of like, oh, how does that affect my rankings? And then,
of course,
you know, so those are probably my go-tos, at least when I was getting started, you know?
Yeah. And I noticed you mentioned earlier lead gen. So like, just talking about that, obviously this is diversifying your strategy of monetization across your sites. So what current monetization strategies do you implement onto, let's say, for example, learning jewelry? Let's take one website and focus on that for the rest of the call.
Sure.
Yeah, so for that particular site, what are your methods of monetization?
Yeah, that site is obviously a product-oriented site. So yeah, that site is right now being monetized display ads, which every site should be monetized with ads.
And are you an advocate of monetizing your money pages as well?
It depends. If they're very valuable, then no. Like it just depends. You have to know your numbers, like from analytics perspective. Strategically, most times I will not suppress ads on a money page being like you know, best, you know, earrings for men or something, you know, like whatever. Most times I won't suppress ads on those pages, but if I do see that the AOV, the average order value of people converting off of that page is abnormally high, I will then run some numbers and be like, okay, you know, even if like one person did not potentially convert, that could destroy like that would make up for like all like a 30 days of monetizing with ads, right? Yeah. So you just have to know like, hey, how valuable is it if somebody converts off this page versus the ads that are on it, right?
Yeah.
So you just it's kind of a give take a little bit there, but I would say 95% of the time I will run ads on affiliate
across the entire site. Yeah, that's brilliant. Now, just diving a little bit more into your strategy, do you use brand new domains for your sites or expired domains?
I always use brand new domains. And I get, again, another question I get quite a lot is, hey man, it's gonna save me so much time. And yeah, that's true, it might. There's definitely a risk profile you're taking on by buying expired domain, especially if you're new. Like you have no business trying to look at an expired domain.
Exactly.
Like, that one's good, that one's bad. You have no clue, right? Yeah. Like so expired domains, the pros do not, in my opinion, do not outweigh the cons. Like the pro, okay, it could save maybe 1 to 3 months of like sandbox time or like early ranking time. Con, you get a burn domain and never rank.
And so just to give everyone a perspective, sorry to cut you there, your current site, what we're focusing on, learning jewelry, where's that currently at in regards to traffic and earnings, and what time frame did that take you to get there?
So I started that site, learningjewelry.com, February 2019, which is, I still had the pet site at the time, and I had a number of other sites. And I actually started it as a public case study for students I was training at the time, just to show them like, here's how I build it, right?
Yeah.
And then the jewelry niche, right, which I liked. So now it's November 2020, which is about almost 2 years old, probably like 18 months. We just crossed $10,000 from that site back in September, and now we are probably on track for about 15 or 16,000 this month. Probably going to do better next month, maybe this month. I guess it depends on Black Friday, but. I mean, it's traffic-wise between 60 and 80,000 sessions per month.
That's brilliant. And just talking about that, like, how does one get into the jewelry niche, you know, or niche for the US guys? Yeah, I noticed that in many of your videos, you talk about unsexy niches. So what's your kind of approach for that? You know, like what makes you identify something as a potential good opportunity?
Yeah, I use the word unsexy as like a kind of a catch-all for things that people don't think, right? I like pets. and like things that everybody kind of thinks about. And they're like, oh yeah, let me start a blog. And like, yeah, they think pets or they think, let me
Because it's
start a
very
weight loss.
general. Yeah.
Yeah. Like very forefront of the mind. Unsexy is like more, mud jacking. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that, but that's basically when you put like filler underneath your sidewalk to make it level. So like, or something like that. I'm not an expert.
Deeper. Yeah.
But it's a whole niche within like blogging and affiliate that exists that you can make money on. So like unsexy is like, hey, and then the jewelry niche, jewelry, you can think of, oh, that's sexy, right? That's jewelry. Well, yes, but also no, because like inclusions in diamonds, nobody thinks about that, right?
No,
or like the
various diamond setting. I noticed that you've got stuff on that.
Diamond testing. Common. Yeah, there's a lot of different things that you can sort of unpack and like the nuances behind that. So yeah, jewelry high level, yeah, that's kind of sexy. But like when you like granular, get deeper into it, there are things you can.
I would even say the same again for bow ties is not so much sexy, even though it's fashion. At a high level, you could say fashion is, but then bow ties specifically is not. And then pest control is just something no one would think of getting into. It's just one of those things you just wouldn't. A lot of the time you'd find like a local based business around that, or a service based business. So that's very, very interesting. Very different to what common train of thought is, but that's usually where a lot of people find success, so not following the rest of them. All right. So in regards to product selection and just diving a little bit into that, do you have any kind of requirements or specialization for affiliate programs that you like to work with, or do you approach it with monetizing with Amazon and then fleshing out as the site grows? What's the general approach to that?
Definitely starting with Amazon, just because it's easiest to monetize. It has every niche in it. Amazon has a product that can be monetized in every niche, right? Like from welding to like, lawn care, anything, right? So Amazon is always the first place I'll go when monetizing, regardless of where I'm going. If I'm starting a new site, ads, obviously every site gets that. As far as like from there, like especially in jewelry, right? When I started jewelry, I kind of had my eyes on a couple of partners when I started, but I didn't immediately apply to them. And I didn't know if they would be successful or not, right? It's hard to know unless you have like firsthand data to say validate, like, for example, right now, Blue Nile is one of my affiliate partners. They're a jewelry, they sell jewelry. James Allen's another one. Hellsberg Diamond. These are just diamond retailers, right? But you don't know how they convert. So the great thing about Amazon is, when you send traffic to Amazon, Amazon is the master of conversion, right? They will convert the traffic. It will turn into a customer. And when they buy, you make money. So the issue with affiliate partners, as you're growing an affiliate site, you don't know if the people you're sending traffic to, like whoever you're partnering with, will convert the customer, right? They might have the best product in the world, but if their marketing is terrible, then it doesn't matter. So anytime I'm thinking about a new affiliate partner, like literally right now, I'm testing a new affiliate partner that I talked to the director of marketing. This is Clean Origin. So Clean Origin emailed me and was like, hey, look, we really like your site. We think it could fit for our brand. I was like, great. What are your terms? We got final, they said %, which is basically market rate. And then like a 30-day cookie or whatever, right? And then, so what I did to test them, because right now I have a stack rank that I know works. So what I don't want to do is put them where I think that they're like, yeah, we were great, and then we put them above somebody who's already converting, Amazon or James Allen or Blue Nile. And that makes me less money because people are clicking on that one and they're not clicking on the one that converts. So that's hurting me. But a way to test is just, slot them like one level below your best converting, test their conversion rate. If it matches up or is, at or a little bit below is probably okay. Then you start looking at, okay, first of all, what's the take rate? Are people clicking on the link at all on your site? That's take rate. And then when they go to the next site, how often are they converting? And then when they convert, what's the average order value of that conversion? And then you start measuring. And that's when you can say, oh yeah, let's go with that one. And if they don't get any conversions, then you just pull them and you're done.
Of course. Yeah. So that's what obviously helps you to decipher the metric of average order value, I'd imagine. Yeah. Yeah,
exactly. Like jewelry tends to have a high average order value. Well, that also depends on the page you're sending people from. This is like pre-qualifying the click, right?
Yeah.
So like, best bed bug heater versus best bed bug trap. two completely different sets of people that are on those pages.
Of course.
Bedbug heaters cost like $200. Bedbug traps cost $10. So like the AOV is a bit different, and the value of the traffic is different. So you got a couple of things you have to take into consideration, but AOV is definitely one thing that makes, because like if their conversion rate sucks, like say, I got a converter, one of my affiliate partners converts at 1%. And then this other one's like, hey, pick me. I want to be on your panel or your website. And then you put them on number 2 and they convert half, which is terrible. But their AOV is like double or triple. The net out is better, which is also called like EPC, earnings per click. And then that's, as an affiliate, you're like, okay, this one is converting half as much, but their EPC is higher. Therefore I keep them,
So, of course.
Yeah.
So you have to weigh everything up. And touching on that about keywords, what's your general approach for qualifying a keyword? And what's your balance between buyer intent keywords against informational keywords? Because both of them obviously pose value in their own way.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a tough one. I used to be like 50-50 buyer intent versus informational. And generally buyer intent type of keywords have like the modifier like best, versus, review, top, these like modifiers that indicate that the person who's searching is looking to qualify a product purchase, versus like, how do I get rid of bed bugs? Or like how, what are the different types of necklaces? These are typical. So I would say that there's more traffic on the informational side, and informational content tends to be better for display ads. And if you're like trying to build an email list, it might be good on that front too.
Of course,
I tend not to build email lists just because it takes too much time to manage.
Okay.
But yeah, I would say that I tend to be 70-30 in favor of buyer intent keywords these days. I haven't seen, I think there's some theory and like a little bit of the rumors kind of floating around. It's like, well, if your site is all buyer intent stuff, Google's going to penalize you. And I think like if it's like a bunch of best whatever, I think optically it has more to do with how users engage with your site than what Google thinks. Google doesn't care what's on your site.
Of course.
It's more just like user experience. If you're trying to build links to your site, if like a webmaster comes to your site and they click and they see all these like affiliate articles, they all the same title and they all look the same, and you're like, this is a shitty affiliate site. Like,
of course.
I'm not gonna link to this. So that's where it gets, the wrinkles start to come in. But I generally right now 70-30 more buyer intent. I'll have some informational just for the webmasters for optics, so that when I'm doing link building, it looks like a fully, full built out site. And if I identify an informational like thread of keywords that I see the RPMs are really high from a display ads perspective, I'm like, oh, the RPMs on this content is $30 per 1,000 visitors. So I'm going to create more of that informational content, right?
To make more money, of course, definitely. Are you writing any of your own content, or are you hiring writers? And if so, what are the recommended platforms of where you find your writers?
Initially I wrote I wrote most of my content from I wrote all the content for the bow tie site. I wrote most of the content in the beginning for the pest site. And I've never written a content piece since. I do recommend, like I always say, like, hey, if you got no money, but you got time, you can do blogging 100% yourself.
You got a bootstrap.
You can bootstrap it, right? There's very few things in this world you can bootstrap as well as a blog, right? So, which is great. And that's what I did for the bow tie thing. That's what I did for the pest control thing. But now I have more resources. I don't need to do that. I can be more strategic with how I allocate things. So for pest strategies, I went on Upwork. I used Upwork for finding basically native English speaking writers who I then trained how to write pest control oriented content. I also like to say that, hey, you can turn a 2-cent writer into a 10-cent writer with the right training. And you can also turn a 10-cent writer into a 2-cent writer with no training, right? So if you don't basically tell your writer what you need or what you want, they're going to write crappy content.
Of course.
Likewise, again, if a writer is, fairly cheap, you can get them to be really good if you're very particular with what you need. So that's what I did with Upwork, and I was able to save myself a ton of money and bootstrap that site. on, shoestring budget.
Mm-hmm.
Now with learning jewelry, I have the luxury of hiring a bit somebody more with more niche expertise, who is a bit more expensive, but just has more firsthand knowledge with the content. And right now I use ProBlogger for that. I am a big advocate of ProBlogger. I think there's a really great base of writers with lots of experience that like to frequent that site. And I'll anytime I need a new writer, I'll post up a job at least 2 or 3 times with their premium sort of placement, where you basically get like premium viewership for about 2 weeks for $140.
Okay.
You get like 200 responses, and like 95% are trash, but 5% are great quality writers. And then you negotiate down. You can be like, hey, I see you put in your form here that you want 8 cents. Can we do 5 cents? And we'll do like a long-term thing. And usually that does work to help negotiate fees down. So that's pretty much my go-to strategy.
And how do you go about vetting those people? Like, I personally usually give like a template article and just send it out to a bunch of people and see what ones, how their level of quality varies. How about yourself?
That's very similar. I think if you have bigger, like more money to play with, you can send the same article to every writer and then compare and contrast. If you're, more shoestring budgeting, I do exactly what you just said, right? Also, so taking a step back, I will qualify a writer in the form they fill out. So on ProBlogger, and Upwork for that matter, I will put a Google form for them to fill out basically an application. And then the last question on the application will be like, why do you think you should get this role? And then it's a open field for them to write whatever they want. 9 times out of 10, a good writer will fill that out with quality information, like why them, and then everybody else will either not fill it out, or it'll be crappy and weird broken English, like all filtered out. That one step alone has saved me tons of time in like pre-qualifying. So then when they do that, then I will give them an article. Well, then I'll train them. I'll send them through my training hub. And if they don't do that, again, that disqualifies them, because if they're not willing to take some time to learn my process, then they're not going to be a good writer. So they go through all that. And then once they're finally at the end of the stage, it's like, hey, okay, you made through, here's a test article. If it looks great, then we'll move forward. And then they give it back. It looks pretty good. I'll give them feedback, usually via video form. I tend to like video more. And then that'll just, if that looks good, if I see like actionable content, firsthand experience, like follows my rules, that usually will move them forward in the process.
Brilliant. So what I wanted to touch on, just to wrap it up, is purely about link building, because I know you're an advocate of links. So just from a top level outlook, what does your backlink strategy look like? What's your general approach? How do you go about building links to a brand new site starting out? And then as you gain some obviously momentum, how do you increase that velocity?
Yeah, when I first start out, I definitely, you try to tread carefully when you're first starting out. You definitely don't want to build like 100 links to your site like in the first month. It'll most likely send bad signals to Google that there's something fishy going on with this website, because most websites don't do that. That doesn't happen. Google has, in my opinion, it can see, it has so much access to so much data. It can see when there's outliers, and if there's outliers, there's going to be a trigger in the algorithm to be like, I don't know about that. So in the beginning, I will almost always publish like 30 or 40 pieces of content, start establishing a topical authority around the site. I will submit the sitemap to Webmaster Tools. I will probably go on Quora and maybe answer a couple questions, link to my site, get a couple of like links here and there, and that'll start the process of indexing. And then usually I might build between 1 and 3 links, maybe like the first month, first 2 months. And then I'll start to ramp up to 4, 5, 6, probably months 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I'll probably get to 10 to 20 per month ongoing for forever. And that'll pretty much be like the velocity I try to stay at. And that's worked out for me in terms of not hitting any speed bumps or like, getting hit with algo updates or algo, filters or whatever. And as far as I'm very much an advocate of niche links. You really do, especially I try to build niche sites. So jewelry is a niche site. I try to build niche links like jewelry links, wedding links. Fashion is probably like the edge of where I go. That all sends good signals to your site. Hey, you're telling Google what your site's about, right? If you scroll through a backlink profile on Ahrefs or SEMrush and you're like, and you don't know what the site's about, you got a problem. So that's generally how I like to approach it.
Definitely. And are you managing anchor text ratios and things like that? Do you go that granular?
Nah, not really. I mean, I will if I start to notice that there's one. If we start to get too exact match with some anchors, I get nervous. But generally, I don't monitor them that closely because usually when I'm building links, I don't really articulate what I want the anchor to say, and 9 times out of 10, it'll just be like something. And I like to have like my topic in the anchor, like jewelry, diamonds, gemstones. I don't want the exact match term I'm trying to go for them, right? That would be too far. I'd be like, that's too much for me. That's too risky.
Yeah.
I would prefer like a link to my like, diamonds page, like what's the best diamond, right? The link, the anchor text might be like, if you're interested in, learning about diamonds, it has nothing to do with the best diamonds, just learning about diamonds. That would be the anchor. Diamonds is the anchor. That's enough for me.
Yeah. Do you go as deep as having criterias for the level of authority links that you build based on your own authority? And how do you assess the number of links that you build to a particular page?
Yeah, it's usually you look at your competitors. I mean, so generally how I like to look at link building on a page level is, first make sure the on page is perfect, right? Like dialed in, like, there's no problem with this page, at least from a content perspective, because then you just try to, isolate variables, right? Like there's many variables when it comes to SEO, but one that you can control is the on-page, actual content you're giving to Google. So, so I use tools like ClearScope, on-page tools, and obviously Ahrefs to make sure that, hey, I am optimized for the intent of the query. The actual content is as comprehensive or better than what's currently in the currently ranking top 10 or even top 3. Internal links are built with rich anchors on the site. So once that's all taken care of, and I've seen the site, the page age for like between 90 and 120 days, and I don't see it top 10, and I think everything else is correct, what I will do is then look at the top 10 and be like, okay, what's the links profile look like for these sites? Do they have direct links? What do those links look like? And I'm like, all right, do I have to build like 3 to 5 links to make it competitive? Do I need 10? Most links that people are getting are scraper links. You really need to pull those out when are doing this analysis
and things like that as well. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So I'll do all that, and then I'm only going to do this if this is like a very high value page. I'm not going to do this on like very informational terms, but
of course, to just monetize with ads.
Exactly. It would just be too much work. Yeah, that's kind of what I do. Also, to your point about like analyzing pages that I'm getting links from, because I'm buying links from agencies and in some cases brokers who have relationships with webmasters, you have to be very careful with who you're buying from, the links that you're getting, because what happens is those brokers are selling those links to other people, right? Of course, So you need to know that, and it's not the end of the world if that's happening, but you just have to be very picky about which ones you want, which ones you don't want. So what I don't recommend is that you give a broker if you're buying links from a broker and you give them carte blanche to just do whatever they want, right? You are going to get taken advantage of, especially if you're not savvy. They're going to just give you the crappiest bottom of the barrel links, maybe throw one good one in there just to make you feel good, but you're going to get taken advantage of. So always, if you're working with a broker, let them give you the links they want to put on your site. Look at them. Look at Google. Look at Ahrefs. Does the traffic go down? Look at their outbound link profile. Are the links that they're linking to? Is there like 30,000 links that site is linking to? That's a bad sign. So like, be very picky in that regard. I tend to favor agencies who just do natural link building as a service and don't actually have previous relationships with webmasters, because that's tend to what, if I'm buying links or paying agency, that's what I want. I don't want them to be like, here's my broker list, which ones you want.
Because then obviously everyone gets that same service and those links go out to everyone. Definitely true. So in regards to, you mentioned ClearScope. What does that do then? Like, is that an on-page SEO tool like Surfer SEO? I personally use Surfer. Is it very similar to that? Because I noticed you do a video recently about like grouping different terms and things like that, so nesting them.
Yeah. ClearScope is similar to Surfer. It's similar. There's a bunch of tools popping up on the market now that are trying to answer the on-page question. I like ClearScope because it taps into Google's NLP API to basically Google is spitting back. If you put text in Google's NLP API tool. I don't know. There's a link to it somewhere if you Google it.
Yes.
It'll basically tell you as a user what it thinks you're saying to it, right? Because Google's reading it and is like, okay, this is what I think you're talking about. And then ClearScope will basically, if you run a ClearScope report, it'll basically take the content of all of the top 30 results, I think, for a target keyword. It'll stick it in this tool, Google's NLP API. And then what it'll do is then put that into IBM's, also their NLP program. And it'll spit back out a report that says, hey, if you want to rank competitively for this keyword, whatever it is, best bed bug heater, you need to include these keywords and it needs to be about this long. And it's just the output of all of that analysis from all the 30. So it's very similar to Surfer. I think I think I would argue it's a bit more simple. Surfer tends to like give you like brief stuff and like keyword, other stuff. I tend to like ClearScope because it's just simpler. It's like include these words, include this word count.
Yeah. So when you are getting all of these links back to your pages and so on, how are you passing the juice through to the rest of your articles on your site? Are you siloing your articles or are you just like, not? What do you do?
Yeah, for sure. I'm a big advocate of subfolder URL structure, not like, like learningjewelry.com / buying diamonds / pink diamonds, right? Like buying pink diamonds. Like I am a very big advocate of having that subfolder structure to create information architecture for Google to look at. If you have like, learningjewelry.com / pink diamonds and nothing else, and then you have your site with like diamonds, necklaces, earrings, stuff, and it's all kind of like strewn about the site, you can still rank and you'll still be competitive, but in my opinion, it'll take longer and you're not. SEO is all about little optimizations, making things go faster, right? So like anything you can do, any arrows in your quiver that will help Google understand what your site is about and how things are grouped, you should do. Like you have an option to group up things and create categorization and use URL structure to tell Google what things are about. Now, as far as siloing, I do that. So basically what I'll do is I'll create a silo. So for pest control, just as an example, every bug gets its own silo, right? So you got bed bugs, ants, rock cockroaches, whatever else. And everything in that silo is going to talk about that topic, right? And the way that I style everything out is it'll be homepage, probably some kind of category, like overarching category, subcategory, post. It'll roll up through the breadcrumbs and the authority passes through the architecture.
You don't use pages for your money articles, do you? So you use posts for informational and buyer intent?
Depends. That's a very nuanced question. I think generally speaking, I've been using pages to create.
I use them because they're static. That's the reason why I use pages. But I just want to see what you do.
Exactly. Yeah. So I use pages for pest strategies. I believe I use pages for learning jewelry because they are static and it's easier to control the site architecture.
Exactly.
Posts can work. It's just it can get messy, especially if you don't know what you're doing with categories and tags and stuff. So you can create a bunch of bloat on your site by accident. Yeah.
And just talking about everything with learning jewelry, are there any failures that you've had along the way? Things that you've had to overcome?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like straight up failures. I mean, I don't talk about it, but like, so between Bowtie Guy, which is beabowtieguy.com was my bow tie site. I mean, realistically, that was not really a huge success. I made a couple $1,000 a month from that as an e-commerce store, and there really wasn't much traffic to get from an SEO perspective. I wouldn't call that a huge success. I would call it maybe like a stepping stone, not a failure. But then so after Bowtie Guy, I started a cleaning business. This is not necessarily SEO related, but I tried to start a cleaning business. That turned into a big mess and failure. I closed that down after like 3 months of trying that. And then after that, I tried to start an accounting blog because I'm an accountant. I was like, hey, I'm an accountant. Let's try that. And I looked at it. It was way more competitive than I was comfortable getting into. So I was like, it was called accountingrocket.com. I had all these grand ambitions for it. I was like, it's going to be huge.
Yeah.
But I ended up closing it down because first of all, it would be very hard for me to outsource that content.
Yeah.
So I was like, I really wouldn't want to it would be very challenging for me to outsource. Although I am an authority on accounting, it would be hard to do. And ultimately it'd be software, and software as an affiliate is kind of more advanced. Being able to be a good affiliate in the software niche You can do it and you can make a bunch of money doing it, but it tends to be more challenging, right?
Yeah.
So that was, again, not a failure, just it didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then of course pest strategies wasn't like successful from day zero. There was like, I started in February 2017. It wasn't until like August or September it started to make any money. I guess October, November, December it started to make $100 still it's kind of hard to motivate yourself almost nearly a year later making only a couple $100 a month.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until
making more. Yeah.
It wasn't until the following year, the following busy season in pest control world that it started to make real money. And I was like, oh shit, like this is working, like let me double down. And then that's when things started to get better,
Amazing. All right. So that about wraps it up, to be honest. What I was going to say is just if you have any tips for anyone watching this video, any beginners, what is the number one most important thing you would advise them?
For beginners, man, there's a lot of tips. I think the number one, if I had to boil it down, I would say that if I had to boil it down, long tail is your friend, right? Like, this goes back to the thing about, hey, you don't need to build links. Every single time somebody says that, what they really are saying is that go really long tail with your targeting, with your pages, and then you can rank. Because that's true. Yeah. Because you can outrank people on relevance, not links. And that's what these people that are pushing like no link building sites, that's what they're saying. They're basically saying go really long tail, like just for example's sake, like best baby walker for tall babies is one I commonly use for a lot of my videos, but best baby walker is very competitive. Best baby walkers for tall babies is not, or is less. So, but there's even longer tails than that, right? But that's basically what these people are saying.
Under 5 inches tall.
Exactly, right? Yeah, exactly. But yeah, there's nobody ranking for that. There's nobody, because Google wants to serve the most relevant results.
Yeah.
So if it sees an entire article about one topic, it doesn't see anything else, it's gonna rank you number one, and you're gonna get some clicks and stuff. Yeah. So I would say long tail is your friend. If you're just starting out, you will be able to get traffic. And get this, if you build links and those long tail pages can now rank for more head terms, and you'll get even more traffic, right? So links are the gateway. As much as it sucks to build, they are the gateway to building a successful blog. So yeah.
All right. If anyone wanted to reach out to you, guys, just for anyone watching this video, I'll be leaving a link to Shane's YouTube channel below this video where you can go and see more of what he offers, where he shares a lot of free information, where I actually watch the channel as well. Yeah, if anyone wants to reach out to you, what's the best place aside from YouTube?
I have my site, probably shanedutka.com. I publish a bunch of stuff there. Obviously, my YouTube videos are sort of syndicated there. And yeah, that would be the best place to reach me.
Brilliant. Thank you for coming on. I've taken a lot of your time today, but I certainly enjoyed the video. And yeah, tons of information to learn from in here for me and everyone else. And yeah, thank you. All right, I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, for sure.
All right then.